Attention all students!
Do you know the dangers of concussions?
For the next few minutes, we're going to be teaching you about the ins and outs of concussions.
So what's a concussion? A concussion is a traumatic brain injury that alters the way your brain functions.
Symptoms of a concussion include headache, concentration loss, memory loss, balance and coordination problems, loss of consciousness, confusion, dizziness, nausea, slurred speech, and fatigue.
There are many parts of the brain that are affected when you suffer from a concussion. The frontal and temporal lobes of the brain are affected because they are against rigid bone. This means that when there is an impact to the head, these are the first parts of the brain to hit the bone.
Concussions can vary from mild to traumatic. The severity of a concussion is based on the Glasgow Coma Scale, which is a 3 to 15-point scale, 3 being mild and 15 being traumatic. This test can be performed in just a few short minutes. Made up of parameters such as best motor response and best verbal response.
When a concussion has been suspected, there are several steps that coaches and others can take. It is known as the heads-up plan. Step 1 is to look for signs and symptoms of a concussion. Step 2 is to ensure that the athlete is evaluated by a professional experienced in evaluating concussions. Step 3, inform the athlete's parents or guardians of a possible concussion. And lastly, Step 4, keep the athlete out of play during the day of injury and until a professional says he or she is symptom-free and is okay to return to play.
We all know that concussions are an issue in football. Concussions in football are mostly commonly caused by contact with the ground or another player. Contact from another player can include a helmet-to-helmet contact or whiplash from being hit by another player. Impact with the ground could be from hitting your head while making the winning catch or being tackled very hard. Concussions in football can be prevented by using a helmet with better padding instead of a helmet that does not have better padding. They can also be prevented through the banning of the head-to-head contact for all levels of football or stricter rules on concussion assessment and recovery.
In wrestling, concussions are a major problem. The sport allows for a lot of concussions through contact of the two wrestlers, the ground, and even from blows to the head. These concussions can be prevented through proper headwear and awareness of the player.
In the game of volleyball, there's a few different ways you can get concussions. One is through hitting your head on the ground by diving. The other way would be to hit your head or your face with a volleyball. These concussions can be prevented by not putting yourself in danger of being hit in the head.
In the game of basketball, concussions can happen in a number of different ways, through contact with the player, with the ball, or with the ground. These concussions can be prevented through strict foul rules.
In a game of lacrosse, there are many ways to get a concussion. A player could get a concussion through being hit in the head with a stick, through checking, or being hit with a ball. Concussions could also be caused by whiplash from contact with the ground. Concussions in lacrosse can be prevented through awareness and action. Players need to be informed about concussions so they will be able to tell when they need to come off the field. They need to be educated in order to know when they have a concussion.
Soccer is known as the world's beautiful game, but there is nothing beautiful about getting a concussion. Concussions in soccer can be caused by collision with the ground, collision with a player, or collision with the post. There's protective headwear to help you prevent concussions in the game of soccer. Full 90 is one brand of headgear. This design goes all the way around the head and has padding. Another way to protect your head in the game of soccer is through changing the rules slightly in order to protect the player.
Okay, so concussions are hard because they can be really subjective. As much as they try and standardize tests and make tests objective and give you, written tests or computerized tests that are supposed to be standardized and comparing, and a lot of times it just comes down to how the person feels, and that what makes diagnosing concussions really hard and recovering from concussions really hard, because a player can say, oh, hey, I feel fine, and want to get back out on the field, but maybe they're showing signs and symptoms, or vice versa. They're showing, or they're not showing signs and symptoms, but they say that, oh, I have a headache, or oh, the light hurts my head, and they can drag it out. But for me, the biggest thing was that the strangest thing is that my worst concussion, I felt like I recovered from the quickest. Where I was taken to the hospital because I had such bad amnesia from it. But 2 weeks later, I was cleared to play, and I don't remember having any symptoms after that. Whereas another time, I had a little knock to the head. When people call it, oh, you just got your bell rung. And I kept playing for like another 10, 15 minutes until I just like burst into tears for no apparent reason. And again, I came back in a week, but I felt like I had symptoms for 5 months. Which I should probably not admit that on video. But that's my point, is that you can have these minor, supposedly more minor concussions, and players can say that they feel fine and come back, and when they really and truly are having symptoms for a much longer period, even when it appeared like it wasn't that bad. And I guess the big thing, I thought I was fine. I had headaches for a while, even after I said I didn't, but it wasn't until I really felt like, it was a few months later when all of a sudden I was like, wow, I can actually like remember what I'm like my brain can hold more pieces of information all of a sudden. And I didn't realize that I couldn't before. I wasn't like, going every day like, why can't I remember things, It wasn't until I was finally like one day like, oh, so I need to do this, this, and this. And I was like, I could not have told you that a week ago, And that was like, that concussion was not a big deal. It wasn't even that bad.